Have you ever noticed how some people say they are going to sleep and then somehow keep scrolling for another 2 hours? Not because the content is good, not even because they are enjoying it anymore. In fact, the strange part is this. Many people keep scrolling long after the experience stopped feeling pleasurable, as if stopping itself feels worse. Some people even close one app, open another, and realize 10 minutes later they were never looking for anything specific at all. The world usually explains this as dopamine addiction, weak discipline, no self-control. But what if the real problem is deeper than that? What if some people are not addicted to stimulation, but afraid of what appears when stimulation ends? Because at night, when the noise finally disappears, unresolved thoughts become louder, and suddenly, the phone is no longer entertainment. It becomes protection from stillness, and that changes the entire meaning of the behavior, because this turns out to be much deeper than social media addiction. Modern psychology explains why the brain becomes dependent on noise, but ancient philosophies discovered something equally important. Thousands of years ago, people do not endlessly seek distraction because they enjoy stimulation. They seek it because stillness no longer feels emotionally safe, and understanding that changes how healing actually works. Psychologist Zeigarnik discovered that unfinished emotional experiences remain psychologically active, far longer than completed ones, now called the Zeigarnik Effect. And that helps explain something unsettling about modern doom scrolling. Some people are no longer scrolling for enjoyment. Their nervous system is searching for psychological closure. But social media never gives closure. It gives anticipation. Neuroscientist Berridge found that dopamine is driven less by pleasure and more by seeking, the feeling that relief might exist in the next swipe, the next refresh, the next video. So the brain keeps moving, not toward satisfaction, toward interruption. And after enough nights like this, the brain quietly learns something dangerous. Silence starts feeling heavier than stimulation. That is why some people feel anxious the moment they try to sleep, because sleep removes the final distraction between them and their own mind. During the day, people can outrun themselves with noise, work, messages, deadlines, notifications. But at 1:17 a.m., in a dark room, with the blue light reflecting across your face, there is finally nothing left between you and your own thoughts. And for many people, that silence feels heavier than exhaustion itself. Some people even notice themselves reaching for the phone automatically, not because they want stimulation, but because they cannot emotionally tolerate the transition into stillness. Sleep researcher June Pilcher found that chronic stress and cognitive overload impair the brain's ability to emotionally downshift before sleep, which means many exhausted people are trying to transition directly from hyperstimulation into silence, and the nervous system resists it. At first, scrolling feels relaxing, then it becomes sedation. And the terrifying part is this. Most people still think they are resting, long after the behavior stopped restoring them. But doom scrolling itself is not the deepest damage. The deeper damage is the identity people build around it afterward, because the world sees the behavior, but rarely understands the internal reality beneath it. Silence gets interpreted as laziness. Withdrawal gets interpreted as weakness. Overstimulation gets interpreted as lack of discipline, when in reality, many people are simply emotionally overloaded in environments that never allow recovery. And after enough years of hearing the wrong explanation, some people quietly begin believing it themselves. So they wake up exhausted, check their screen time, and immediately begin attacking themselves. Why can't I control myself? Why am I like this? Why am I so weak? And research on self-regulation found that shame often increases compulsive coping behaviors instead of reducing them, meaning the voice attacking you at 8 a.m. may be the exact same voice that made escape necessary at 1 a.m. So people enter a loop, overload, escape, shame, more escape. And eventually, they stop seeing themselves as overwhelmed human beings and start seeing themselves as broken. What becomes remarkable is this. Ancient philosophies discovered this pattern thousands of years before smartphones existed. Marcus Aurelius practiced pro-socie, deliberate self-observation, because avoidance multiplies suffering. Buddhism described dukkha, the restless dissatisfaction created by endless grasping. The Upanishads describe sakshi bhava, the ability to observe the mind without becoming trapped inside it. Different civilizations, different centuries, different languages, and yet all of them arrived at the same realization. The exhausted mind does not endlessly seek stimulation because it is weak. It seeks stimulation because it no longer feels safe alone with itself. And strangely, that means the real problem was never scrolling itself. It was the relationship people developed with silence. So if the real problem is not laziness, what actually heals it? Not punishment, not screaming discipline at yourself, not trying to win a war against your own nervous system. Because the goal is not forcing yourself to stop scrolling. The goal is teaching the brain that stillness is survivable again. And both psychology and ancient philosophy point toward the same path. Three-step approach. First, interrupt the unconscious loop. Before touching your phone at night, pause for 5 seconds and ask, what feeling am I trying not to feel right now? Not to shame yourself, just to see clearly, because awareness weakens automatic behavior. Second, stop interpreting exhaustion as moral failure. Some people are not weak. They are emotionally overloaded for 12 straight hours every day, trying to recover inside systems that never allow recovery. Compassion is not indulgence. It is what allows the nervous system to stop treating itself like an enemy. And finally, replace stimulation with transition. Do not try to move directly from chaos into sleep. Most nervous systems cannot do that anymore. Instead, create rituals that slowly teach the brain how to downshift again. Music without lyrics. 1 page of reading, dim lights, 10 slow breaths, 30 seconds of silence longer than yesterday. Not perfection, retraining. And slowly, something strange begins happening. The silence that once felt unbearable starts feeling lighter. Not peaceful at first, just less threatening. Then one night, you notice you reach for your phone and stopped halfway. Not because of discipline, because for the first time in a long time, being alone with yourself no longer felt dangerous. That is when healing actually begins. A modern neuroscience lab, a Roman emperor writing beside the Danube, ancient Buddhist monks sitting in silence, Sanskrit philosophers trying to understand the restless mind. None of them spoke the same language, and yet all of them discovered the same truth. Human beings reach for endless stimulation when they no longer feel safe inside themselves. So maybe healing begins the moment you stop asking, why can't I control myself? And start asking, what would make stillness feel safe again? Because the phone was never the real addiction. The unfinished nervous system was. And the real work of adulthood is not simply learning how to scroll less. It is learning how to finally stop escaping yourself. You came into this video exhausted by your own mind, but maybe the problem was never weakness. Maybe your nervous system just forgot how to feel safe in stillness. And the real work of adulthood is not learning how to scroll less. It is learning how to stop escaping yourself. If this is the kind of content you have been looking for, where modern psychology and ancient wisdom meet to help you understand yourself more deeply, subscribe. Because on this channel, we do not just explain behavior. We trace suffering back to its hidden roots and show you how people begin healing from it.